Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, may peace be upon all of us. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special afternoon, and perhaps a more special than you realize, because today the Balinese Hindu calendar marks Tumpak Landep. On these days, families across Bali gather to clean, bless, and offer prayers over their tools and metal possessions, from ancient keris to motorcycles to computers. It is an act of gratitude and of responsibility. A reminder that tools we carry deserve our care and our respect. But tumpak landep is more than just objects. The word landep means sharp, and that sharpness speaks equally to the mind. It is a day to reflect, to seek clarity, and sharpen our wisdom and moral discernment in how we use the tools available to us. And it could not be more fitting today that we are gathering today and talk about artificial intelligence. And may the spirit of Tumpak Landep guide our conversation today, not just towards what AI can do, but toward how and why and for whom we choose to use it. Today we are here for two reasons. The first is to look forward, to examine the most transformative technology of our time and what it means to business, entrepreneurship, and the future of our region. And the second, to celebrate, to honor the remarkable Happy Digital X Fellows who have spent months doing exactly that, learning, building, and challenging themselves to think differently about the world. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the public forum and graduation ceremony of Happy Digital X, the power of AI, transforming sustainable enterprise and entrepreneurship. First of all, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to our distinguished guests and speakers this afternoon. Minister of Communication and Digital Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Her Excellency Mutia Hafid. Acting Deputy of Entrepreneurship, Ministry of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprise of the Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Riza Damanik. Deputy of Economic Affairs and Digital Transformation, Ministry of National Development Planning, Bappenas, Dr. Vivi Yulaswati, who is joining with us online. Director for AI and New Technology Ecosystem, Ministry of Communication and Digital Affairs of Indonesia, Aju Widyasari. Director of Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center, an Associate Professor at the PBC School of Finance, Tsinghua University, Professor Liu Bibo. Consul General of the People's Republic of China in Denpasar, Zhang Xisheng. Co-Chair of the Board of Management of Tsinghua Southeast Asia, Sir Gordon Duff, who is joining us online. Co-founder of United in Diversity Foundation and co-chair of Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center, Ibu Sherry Nur Salim. And last but not least, President of the United in Diversity Foundation, His Excellency Ambassador Tantowi Yahya. I would like to welcome our distinguished panelists, Past Chairman of TIE Global and Group CEO and founder of Ecosystem Group, Amit Gupta, co-founder at Synectify, Peter Finn, Head of Technology of Amazon Web Services Indonesia, Donald Tirta Atmaja, and the stars of this afternoon, the graduates of Happy Digital X. We also warmly welcome all guests and friends who have joined us today, and we are delighted to have you here. My name is Dian, and it's an honor to be a host for your event. To open our forum today, I would like to invite the Director of Tsinghua Southeast Asia and Associate Professor at PBC School of Finance, Tsinghua University, Professor Liu Bibo, to deliver his opening remarks. He will be joining us online. Yeah, Professor Liu, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, dear distinguished guests, my colleagues, and dear graduates. I'm honored to join the forum and the ceremony to celebrate the completion of the third cohort of the Happy Digital X program. On behalf of Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center, I extend my deepest congratulations to all of you. Dear graduates, when the HDX program started, our goal was to develop transformative leaders who want to build cities and communities that are smart, humane, resilient, and joyful. Over the past few months, you have learned about system change, sustainable design, and digital innovation. You have wrestled with those ideas, debated them, tried them out, and made them your own. That process, sometimes uncomfortable, often enlightening, is exactly what HDX is about. It does not give you answers. It equips you to ask better questions and to act on what you have discovered. Your challenging projects show this clearly. Each project tackled real problems facing Southeast Asian communities and come up with a thoughtful, actionable vision for change. Your work proved how much you learned and how seriously you take your roles as leaders. It's no coincidence that we are celebrating your graduation at the same forum where some of the region's most thoughtful minds are discussing how AI is transforming business and society. Because your projects ask the same big question: how do we use powerful and new tools in ways that truly serve people and communities? AI is reshaping the world faster than expected. It's changing how businesses run, how cities are designed, and how decisions are made. But technology by itself has no values. It's the people using it, their intentions, judgment, and purpose decide whether it becomes a force for good. That's the kind of leader HDX aims to develop. Dear graduates, please take what you've learned into your daily work, the frameworks, perspectives, and the courage to think differently. Apply them to challenges in your organizations, communities, and cities. Also, please stay connected. You are now part of a network across all three cohorts. Reach out when you need help. Share your perspective when others need it. The Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center believes that good education can change not just individuals, but entire societies. HDX puts that belief into action, and you, the third cohort, are its strongest proof. Again, my deepest congratulations to all of you, and to our partners, instructors, and the organizing team. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lee Bibo, for your warm and inspiring opening words. And that set the stones for the tone for today's event, organized by Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center. We will now hear a special remark from a representative of the Indonesian government. It is my honor to invite Acting Deputy of Entrepreneurship, Ministry of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprise of the Republic Indonesia, Dr. Riza Damanik, to deliver his special remarks. Dr. Riza, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Her Excellency Ibu Mutia Hafid, Minister of Communication and Digital Affairs, allow me to express our appreciation for Ibu Mutia and teams for continued effort to strengthen the digital governance, including initiatives to create a safer digital space for our children below the age of 16. Give applause to Ibu Mutia. Her Excellency Ibu Vivi Yulaswati, Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs and Digital Transformations of Bappenas, His Excellency Mr. Zhang Xiang, Consul General of People's Republic of China in Denpasar, Professor Liu Bibo, Director of Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center, Sir Gordon Duff, Chair of the Board of Management of Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center, Mr. Amit Gupta, Group CEO and founder of Ecosystem Group, Dr. Peter Finn, co-founder of Sinectify. Bapak Donald Trita Atmaja, Head of Technology of AWS Indonesia. And also, ini senior kami, Pak Tantowi Yahya, President Commissioner of Kura-Kura Bali. Give applause to Pak Tantowi. And to the graduates of HDX, Happy Digital X Cohort 3.0, my warmest congratulations on completing the program. Applause for distinguished Minister, Excellencies, respected speakers, and participants. A very good afternoon. It is a great honor to stand in front of you today on behalf of the Minister of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise, Bapak Maman Abdurrahman. I extend my sincere appreciation to Xinhua Southeast Asia Center for bringing us together at such a strategic forum. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in a moment of transformation. Artificial intelligence is no longer a distant possibility. It is here, it is real, and it's reshaping everything. It reshapes how we produce, it reshapes how we compete, and ultimately, it reshapes how get left behind and who move forward. According PwC, AI is projected to contribute up to 15.7 trillion US dollar to the global economy by 2030. The question is not whether AI will transform our economies. The real question is who will be benefit for it. In Indonesia, the answer to that questions matter deeply because our economy stands on the shoulders of micro, small and medium enterprise. Micro and small and medium enterprise account for more than 99% of our enterprises, contribute over 60% of GDP and employ around 97% of our workforce. At the same time, Indonesia benefits from a young, dynamic, and increasingly digital population. But let us be honest, technology does not automatically create progress. Access does not guarantee impact, and innovation does not always lead to inclusion. Progress happens when we make deliberate choice, when we invest in readiness, when we build real capability, and when we create trust. To turn AI into a driver of inclusive and sustainable growth, the three priorities must move together. We must strengthen readiness, build capability, and accelerate collaboration. No single institution can build this ecosystem alone. Governments, industry, innovators, academia, and university must work together in a coordinated and sustained manner. Ladies and gentlemen, at national level, we address this challenge through clear policy directions and concrete national program. Through Sapa UMKM, our integrated digital one-stop service platform, as well as initiatives such as Entrepreneur Hub, we connect micro, small, and medium enterprise with mentoring, digital tools, and market access. We not only introduce technology, we actively guide micro and small medium enterprise to apply it in practical and business relevant way. In terms of financing, we continue strengthen access through programs such as Kredit Usaha Rakyat atau KUR, our flagship financing scheme for micro and small medium enterprise in Indonesia, as well as through the program Credit Information System, SIKP, which improves data integration and expand credit access for micro enterprises. Building on these foundations, we are also accelerate the adoptions of artificial intelligence in the financial sector, particularly in credit analysis, data processing, and personalized financial services. At the regional level, We actively collaborate through the ASEAN Move program. Together with Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center, we support around 100 micro and small medium enterprise startups across ASEAN. Through this initiative, we strengthen their digital readiness, promote sustainable practices, and build innovation capacity. We also connect them to a broader regional ecosystem that enables them to scale up and compete in global market. While this remains an ongoing process, we continue to refine our approach and expand its impact. This effort aligns closely with our broader national development agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia does not aim to become merely a market for AI. We aim to become an active player in shaping an ecosystem where AI strengthens enterprises, empower entrepreneurs, and drive micro and small medium enterprise more productive, inclusive, and sustainable growth. We recognize that these transformations requires more than technology. It requires investment in people, strong institutions, and trust collaborations. Before I conclude, I warmly congratulate the graduates of Happy Digital X Cohort 3.0. You have demonstrated an important principle. The future belongs not to be those who simply understand technology, but to those who apply it with discipline, creativity, and purpose. Let us ensure that AI become not only a tool for efficiency, but a force for inclusions, opportunity, and share prosperity. Thank you. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om.
Thank you, Dr. Riza, for your valuable perspective, and we look forward for our collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to one of the highlights of our forum. AI is not only a technological question, it is a policy question, an economic question, and at its heart, a question about what kind of future we want to build. And there is no one better placed to address that question for Indonesia than our next speaker. It is my great honor to invite the Minister of Communication and Digital Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Her Excellency Mutia Hafid, to deliver her keynote speech.
Terima kasih. Selamat sore, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me just give my warm remarks first to Bapak Riza Damanik, Deputy of Entrepreneurship, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Thank you for the very kind words, Pak Riza. Ibu Vivi, Deputy for Economic Affairs and Digital Transformation, Ministry of National Development Planning, National Development Planning Agency. His Excellency Zhang Zisheng, Consul General of Chinese Consulate General in Denpasar. Ms. Sherry Nur Salim, Board of Trustees, Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center. Thank you for reminding me all the time about this event. I'm happy now that I'm here and see for myself the exciting things that's happening in Tsinghua University here. Mrs. Chobi Lawalata, Executive Director, Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center. Mr. Michael Tuwori, Academic Director, Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center. Professor Liu Bibo, Assistant Dean and Associate Professor. Sir Gordon Duff, Chair of Board Management, Tsinghua Southeast Asia. And of course, my brother, Ambassador Tanto Yahya, President of the United in Diversity Foundation. Distinguished panelists, everybody, ada Pak Donald Tirtatmaja, Dr. Peter, Amit Gupta, and of course, HDX 3.0 graduates. Congratulations on completing the program. From the Ministry of Communication and Digital Affairs, I'm accompanied by Ibu Ayu Widyasari, Director of AI and New Technology Ecosystem. So this is one new director that we introduced in the President Prabowo's administration. Ibu Ayu, would you please stand up? Oh, Ibu Ayu di depan, supaya kenal dengan semuanya. Today, competitiveness is no longer defined by the abundance of one country's natural resources or the size of economy alone, but it's determined by one country's ability to adapt to digital technologies and in particular, artificial intelligence. Value creation has shifted from how much we have the resources into how far we can manage data for solutions. Indonesia is well positioned. We are able to stand as one largest and fast-growing market supported by dynamic digital ecosystem, strong AI adoption, and sustained drive for innovations. In the first slide, we will see that tadi Pak Riza has already mentioned, I would add a bit, how Indonesia's digital economy continues to grow at a remarkable pace. According to Google, Temasek and Bain Company 2025, our GMV reached $90 billion in 2024, an increase of 13% from the previous year. And this momentum is accelerating. In 2025, GMV is estimated to reach $130 billion, marking a 45% in growth. Our digital economy in 2026 is predicted to continue growing even under the global uncertainty. Within ASEAN, Indonesia plays a leading role, contributing more than 1/3 of the region's total digital economy, which stood at $263 billion in 2024. Now, the growing adoption of generative AI is expected to further drive innovation and also expansion, bringing Indonesia's digital economy to a hugely estimated $360 billion by 2030. In the global landscape, we, Indonesia, continue to strengthen our positions. According to the World Bank, we rank 41st out of 198 countries and include category A for strong public digital transformation. In terms of AI adoption, Indonesia is recognized as a rising contender. We are on par with countries such as India and also Brazil, and this reflects a high level of ecosystem readiness, with AI adoption potentially growing with productivity and new job opportunities. Across sectors, the AI maturity of finance and retail sector is advanced, while essential sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, manufacturing are still developing. And we must accelerate these essential sectors as their potential impact are significant. And according to the World Bank, if we can do so, we could contribute up to 3.67% to Indonesia's total GDP. Now let's take a look at rapid evolutions of AI and the need for governance. So we see in 2022 to 2025, AI has evolved at an unprecedented pace, moving beyond simple tools into generative and increasingly autonomous systems that can create, plan, and also act. And then by 2026 to 2029, which is today, AI has been serving as a co-worker and economic driver. AI will become increasingly embedded across daily life and industries, acting as a co-worker, accelerating productivity and reshaping how business are done daily. And then beyond 2030, AI is expected to become a core infrastructure of our economy and society, with impacts that extend far beyond technology, bringing both significant opportunities and emerging risks as well. And that is why one thing is clear: the need for strong and responsible regulation is no longer optional. It is immediate and unavoidable, and this is where Indonesia's AI roadmap becomes essential. Okay, let me just check. Following an extensive and inclusive process, I think it was more than 50, Ibu Ayu, 50 stakeholders. And how long was the process? 6 months process of bringing together more than 60 stakeholders. We finally finalized a presidential regulation for Indonesia's national AI roadmap and ethics. It provides a clear strategic direction while also ensuring public protection and addressing key risks, and it is now waiting for President's signature. So soon enough, hopefully we'll have the AI presidential regulation coming up. The presidential regulation defines 10 priority sectors, which among the 10 are finance, healthcare, food security, education, bureaucratic reform, and other public sectors. At national level, AI must support President Prabowo's quick wins programs, including food self-sufficiency, mapping stunting vulnerable areas, strengthening Koperasi Merah Putih, enabling adaptive learning in public schools, and also improving early detection of hoaxes and also disinformation as one of the biggest threats that the world is facing today. Now, presidential regulation also includes the innovative AI financing scheme as well. So it states very clearly that Danantara will serve as the main orchestrator connecting key institutions, including the Ministry of Communication and Digital Affairs, Ministry of Investment, BKPM, Bappenas, and other relevant stakeholders. And through coordinated collaboration, we align AI investments with talent, research, and national priorities, while strengthening business matching and expanding global financing through sovereign funds and blended finance to support sustainable public-private investment. Now let's look at data technologies for MSME acceleration. We believe that artificial intelligence should be developed to serve everybody, not just few people. One of our key priorities is to ensure that AI adoption reaches micro, small, and medium enterprises. And of course, this is where Mr. Riza and his team will be very much has important role to also help to boost this sector. We'll see. Sorry, I got this mixed. We'll see the key lies in enabling secure cross-border data flows, allowing MSMEs to access global data services supported by cloud infrastructure as well as AI and fintech-based solution. So once the foundation is in place, we unlock two main accelerators. First is the velocity of money through digital payments. This can accelerate economic circulation and expand access to financing. And then the second one is the velocity of data through AI adoption. And that enables better data processing to improve productivity, speed, and also business resilience. And why does this matter? Because our development principle is clear. Economic growth must go hand in hand with sustainability and inclusiveness. And MSMEs have consistently proven to be resilient economic actors in advancing this agenda. Now, at the core of AI ecosystem development is, of course, the collaboration among stakeholders, and initiatives such as Human Development Exchange, or HDX, reflect a human-centered approach where technology is designed to serve people, and the presence of Xinhua Southeast Asia Center in Indonesia represents a long-term commitment to strengthening intellectual capacity and human capital across Southeast Asia. So I think let's give a round of applause to Xinhua University's presence here. Here we see a model of education that is relevant to today's challenges, leveraging technology, integrating sustainability, and also embedding a human-centered perspective. I would also, again, for the second time, would like to extend my congratulations to the participants of HDX 3.0. They have engaged directly. They have engaged directly with real challenges across the communities in Southeast Asia while building adaptive and solution-oriented leadership. I fully support the core principle of the ADH program that technology must serve humanity, and artificial intelligence and digital innovations are not ends in themselves, but tools to create meaningful and lasting impact for society. And finally, true measure of technology is not how advanced it is, but how meaningful it is for people's life. With that, I close my opening remarks. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Mutia, for those powerful and forward-looking remarks. Would you be so kind to remain on stage because we would like to give our distinguished guests token of appreciation, and may I invite Bapak Riza Damanik to also join us, and may I invite Ibu Sherry Nur Salim to present the token of appreciation to our guests. And after this, yeah. And I would like to invite also our guests to please joining us to the front to take a great photo group. Please Pak Tantowi Yahya, Ibu Ayu, Pak Donald, Amit Gupta, and Peter Finn to join us on the stage to take a group photo. Okay. Oh, Shobi? Hold on. Okay, everyone ready? Is it a good composition? Yeah? Okay. Great. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, our distinguished speakers. Please give a big round of applause. Yeah, to Ibu Mutia, I know you have another agenda after this. Here, please. Thank you so much for your remarks and your presence in today's event. Really appreciate that. Oh, oh udah? Oh, udah dong. Kami udah. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with our agenda. Please be seated because we would like to start with the panel discussion. And this afternoon, we have the privilege to explore the questions about AI and its development in Southeast Asia. And to guide this conversation, here we are with us, Executive Director of Xinhua, Shobi Lawalata, to guide this conversation. To Shobi, yes, the microphone, please, for Shobi. Microphone. Oh, it's already okay. Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I think we're all still in minister mode. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us here. My name is Shobi Lawalata, and I am the Executive Director of Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center. And I think we have heard the high-level remarks from our minister and deputy minister. I think the bottom line is clear. Yes, AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's going to change everything. It is a great equalizer, and it's a tool for inclusion. And that Indonesia wants to be not only a market, but a shaper of AI and AI ecosystem going forward. So I think the question and the task for this panel is to answer the question of how we are going to do that. So with that, allow me to call up and introduce to the stage our esteemed panelists. The first is we have Mr. Amit Gupta, who was the chairman of Thai Global. Amit is a technology entrepreneur, an innovation strategist, ecosystem builder, and he built one of the world's largest entrepreneurship networks. So it's a pleasure and honor to have you here, Amit. We are also joined today by Dr. Peter Finn, also a technology entrepreneur, and Peter taught in the HDX course, so our graduates will be familiar with Peter. Peter is an applied AI researcher. I think he earlier called himself a pracademic. Is that pracademic? So combining practice and academia, and his work focuses on deploying AI cleanly, privately, and at the edge. He is a co-founder of Synectify and creator of InferNode. Now, I'll have you say a little bit more about that in a bit. And of course, we are also honored today to be joined by Bapak Donald Tirta Atmaja, Head of Technology at AWS Indonesia, perhaps one of the most important companies in the world in today's AI ecosystem. Pak Donald leads technology strategy and engagement for Amazon Web Services in Indonesia. And in this role, Pak Donald works with enterprises, startups, and government bodies to accelerate cloud adoption, AI integration, and digital infrastructure development. So we have a complete suite of people to answer very, very interesting questions today. So allow me to join you here at the panel. So our panelists, let's start with a round of introduction. Maybe you can take each 5 minutes to say a little bit about you, your work with AI, and to throw something fun in there. What's one question about AI that you wrestle with that's front and center in your mind right now? So maybe we can start with Amit.
Well, a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here, and it's been a pleasure just observing the kind of progress that is being made through cohorts like the HDX cohort. And thank you to the UID team and the Tsinghua Southeast Asia campus for having us here. And congratulations to all the graduates of the program. My name is Amit Gupta, and I'm an entrepreneur. Very deeply passionate about it. I believe entrepreneurship brings solutions that solve some of our biggest challenges. And so I think it's great to see that we have such great entrepreneur energy in the room. Outside of that, I also do investing, and one of my companies, Ecosystem, is a technology research and analyst firm, and we advise the world's largest technology companies on market trends and how their business will shape and their markets will shape, and then we advise enterprises and governments on where they should invest in terms of technology adoption that will benefit their organizations. So it's a really interesting time. In the sense that over the last 2 years, I don't think there's any conversation in the technology world, and we'll probably hear from Peter and Donald as well, that happens without AI. Now, there is every company wants to be an AI company. Every company wants to be an AI first company or an AI forward company. And it means different things to different people. But one thing is for sure, that AI is here to stay. And our view is that the impact of AI can only be felt when it takes the whole of ecosystem approach, which means, when governments enable frameworks or provide frameworks that enable the AI innovation, when digital natives build those innovative technologies, when investors and capital providers put the capital behind innovations that will shape the world in the next 5 to 10 years. And of course, it's incomplete without enterprises that participate and enterprise tech providers like AWS that bring that whole motion together. But none of this is complete unless we have the right policy frameworks. And one of the statements that I have been making is, AI innovation today is moving much faster than the speed of trust. So and I think it comes down to trust. And I think unless the government is really putting the impetus behind it, it's not possible to achieve that. And then it leads to a number of different considerations, I think, from an AI perspective. Once you have trust, which is, I'm so glad when I was listening to Paulo Hood when he was speaking and the team, and I've been following their work for NIAI over the last year. And it's amazing to see how small teams today can make such great progress when there is intent and trust behind it. I think starting from there, the opportunity is how do you make sure that this becomes an inclusive play? Because I think so. I'll end with maybe a question and a thought. So my one thought is, for Indonesia, I don't think Indonesia will, or any economy, and I think Indonesia is one of the world's largest countries. There's such great youth digital talent available. I think the opportunity is for Indonesia is not just to build the best models or the best AI infrastructure. I think it's to ensure that AI is inclusively adopted across every sector, SMEs, every size of organization, and every person is able to harness the value of AI for themselves and for the greater good of Indonesia. So I think one thought and question that I have always is, how do we ensure that all of this talk that's happening in the enterprise world, because eventually most of the spend is happening in the enterprise world, how do we ensure that AI adoption is truly inclusive and it's it isn't just about putting bold statements out there, and I think the enterprise tech has the opportunity to support that, and if they can channel that, and Donald is here, and organizations like AWS, if they can channel that mission, I think that will complete the last mile to include that to achieve that inclusive AI adoption.
Perfect. We'll go a little bit in more detail in that direction when we go around. Thank you so much, Amit. Peter?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for the introduction, and it's honored to be here. Just a little bit of background on myself and my engagement with AI. I've been basically a serial entrepreneur going back to, gosh, the late 90s. I'm older than I look. Perhaps, and I've also kind of from the beginning been involved in distributed computing. That's kind of been my focus. Just basically every startup that I've done is kind of in some way intersected with that. And one thing that has kind of continuously driven me through everything that I've done is just a constant realization of the incredible surplus of, say, computing capacity that we have, or energy capacity, generation capacity that we have that is underutilized. And that's driven a lot of what I have done in the computing space. That's kind of what has been the foundation for Synectify, which is trying to bridge precisely that gap of matching available computing capacity with available surplus renewable energy to try to achieve just a higher level of optimization in terms of how we're using computing and then how we're using energy more sustainably. Of course, AI plays into that tremendously, and from a level beyond just the performance of how efficiently and greenly we're going to be able to conduct inferencing. It also goes into questions about data sovereignty and how we are able to keep control over all of this valuable data, of course, that we have, while at the same time leveraging the benefits of AI, right? So a lot of my current interest is also in using, again, these distributed computing models, how it is that we can better utilize desktop computing resources to do inferencing on our own computers, or even on premises computing power and things like that. So and I'm sure AWS can speak to the hyperscaler side of things. So I'll pass the mic in a moment. But in terms of some of the questions that I grapple with, oh gosh. I'm always being accused of being, 4 standard deviations outside the norm. So, yeah, kind of, the questions that occur to me tend to be kind of frontier, and being an academic doesn't help. But again, in kind of this distributed line of thought, I'm thinking a lot more about the interactions, the social interactions of distributed AI agents and how they will start to behave as they start to interact with each other, and also how they will interface with human beings in a teaming capacity, who are using them, and how that just might play out. It's a complex system, so we can't really know, but how to anticipate the risks and try to stay ahead of that. Yeah, whatever's coming. So yeah, happy to elaborate on that and more. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Pak Donald? Switch to the right. Yeah, there we go.
Hi, my name is Donald. I am the head of technology for AWS Indonesia. Right, I think I'm really glad for the opportunity to speak here today. Right, so I think when we talk about AI, I think Amit talked a little bit about inclusion of AI and so on. I think what is really interesting right now is that we are at the point where we see AI is more widely adopted. Right, I think a couple of years ago, only those largest enterprises can afford not even implementing it, just, kind of experimenting with AI, right? But today, right, almost everybody can get access to it, right? And AWS is a cloud service provider. And one of the biggest thing that I think I take pride that we are doing is that we are bringing AI to the masses, right? For just barely about $100, right? You can already have access to AI infrastructure now, right? Running your own GPU, running your own model, right? And maybe even if you're not that technical, right, you can actually use the model without having to do a complex AI engineering, right? We just talked about it during the lunchtime, right? How probably the first job that go away is the AI engineer. Why? Because now an AI can create another AI system, right? So we talk about it a little bit that, I think the people who will really benefit are the people who are in the industry, not so much the engineer itself, right? And I think we come to a point now that's very interesting. I'm already seeing in the market. I also work with a lot of startups. I'm seeing a lot of startups that's providing digital services to their customer, right? And like when we look at startup 10 years ago, it's all the founders are basically technology people, right? It's very techy people, developers, right? Hardcore engineer. The last probably 1 year, I'm starting to see where the founder is a truly business person, right? We've seen a startup, it's a legal startup. They're providing digital legal services, helping the small, medium enterprises, basically getting their contract drafted properly, vetting contract and so on for a very low cost. The founder is a lawyer, right? And the whole team is lawyer. No single developer inside there. So I think we are at that inflection point here, right? Where really business can really thrive using AI, and it will create new businesses. It will create a new type of small, medium enterprises, right? I think one of the challenges, I think we would like to see how it will actually be solved in the next couple of years is that we should probably go even further, right? Right now, as much as we say, it's no longer for the few people, but I think the group of people who can use it is still very small, right? Looking at Indonesia, 300 million, I think less than 10% can really use it. The question is, what about the rest, right? We don't want to leave anybody behind, right? We want the whole country to actually, be able to benefit from AI. So I think that will be the big question, and I think we still need to figure out over the next couple of years around this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pak Donald. And I hope the development again isn't faster than the speed of our ability to catch up with it. So I think your comment just looped directly back to what Amit said at the beginning, right, about inclusivity. And it's, I think, a question that's particularly important in Indonesia. I think the deputy minister earlier today said how MSMEs are the backbone of the Indonesian economy. And I think if we double click on that, you will see that a significant percentage of that are street vendors, right? They're farmers and fishers. And so who gets to have access and who doesn't get to have access, I think will make a big difference in our inclusivity outcomes. In terms of the one-man enterprises now that's being created, but also at the same time, it's the same technology being adopted by larger companies that used to rely on these, supply chain of smaller SMEs to support their operations. So it's really shaping the whole ecosystem. So how do you see that playing out? How do we ensure inclusivity through all of that? I mean, I've never seen a piece of technology that excites as well as creates anxiety in people as much as AI, right? Before. So please,
No, look, I think that's one that I think really needs to be solved. But I can share some thoughts around it. I think first of all, the interesting thing about AI is that it is a complete leveler, right? One of my very good friends who runs a very large bank, he said 70% of his C-suite leadership team were not using technology for anything beyond email. And today, they are one of the most highly paid business leaders in the market, and yet they're at a disadvantage because they don't actually know how to use AI at all. And they're desperately trying to learn so that they can stay relevant. They know that that's not going to be the case if they don't. So the good thing is that adoption gap is very consistent. Now, the other piece with AI that I'm seeing is, if we take it in the context of Indonesia, for example, let's look at farmers, the agri economy. It's a big part of Indonesia's grassroots economy. Today, AI with speech-based communication can actually solve for that lack of digital adoption because they all have mobile phones. If they're, it's a matter of getting that in their hands in a way that they can actually use. And there are so many things that can be done to actually help the farmer with better yield, better supply chains, better access to markets, processing, whatever it is, where AI can actually play that role. And unlike in the past, where there was a lot of talk about agri-tech 5 years ago as well. So first of all, I want to make a caveat that AI is not new. AI has been around for a long time. Gen AI is new. Gen AI consumerized AI. Gen AI made AI come in the palms of everyone in this room and around the world. But AI has always been there. But the problem is, in the past, when you had data and you were trying to help farmers with agri-tech, they needed to deal with the complexity of actually having to read reports, what they should be doing. Now, AI can actually do it for them. So, once you start to augment AI with those farmers, I think the potential is immense. And I just want to close on the one-man enterprise, since you mentioned that. I was just blown away. We were just talking about it downstairs at lunch with Pa Luhut as well, that, in the Council General has left now, but in China, I've been talking to founders there. The government, because they're recognizing jobs are being lost, they're actually trying to help individuals create one-man businesses with AI. Now, they're not trying to build one-man unicorns, so don't get me wrong. They're trying to build one-man SMEs. So basically, the SME is defined to OME, one-man enterprise, right? So, but I think that's the opportunity in Bali. You have so many digital natives that want to move here. If you give them the right environment, the right infrastructure, the opportunity is, can they use agentic to build one-man AI native companies out of Bali? So just a thought to leave you with.
all right, thank you.
Yeah,
Peter,
can I
yeah, still
add on to that? Yeah. So,
compute
what's that?
with your distributed compute approach. I think
Yeah,
that
sure.
plays into that.
And I'm also very much a one-man enterprise. So I can speak to that, directly. So I like to tell people that, never in the history of human civilization has there been a single technology that is as powerful and as easy to use. And, to the point of now having a computer that we can just speak to and have whatever the intent of the operator is just simply be interpreted by the AI agent, and just carried out, just executed. That alone is just going to change everything. I think we're on the cusp of a transition where, desktop operating systems that we're familiar with and all of these And so, that also means that software development, to the point about, I'm putting myself out of business. Software development is becoming cheap, right? And so it's actually much more the human aspects of building that critical problem of achieving product market fit. These fundamentals of entrepreneurship are the human side of it is really coming to the fore, and of what's important, and the technical side of it has been to an increasing side just solved. But anyway, thoughts on that?
I think it's really interesting, right? Because I think really AI has gone beyond the wall of the large enterprises, right? Hits a lot more of the startup and so on. But I think specifically if we talk about, in Indonesia, we talk about the street vendor, right? The farmers, right? Unfortunately, I think the gap is still there, right? I think we have to acknowledge that the gap is still there. Right? So in my mind, actually, if we want to reach out further, I think there are two things that needs to be done, right? The first one is data, right? How data actually becomes available to these guys, right? This is probably where we may need help from the government, right? How some of this data can actually be collated by the government, right? And kind of democratized, that can be used by the larger community out there, right? Because right now, what we're seeing, well, managing data is a lot easier. So even the startups can do it themselves, right? And I think a lot of the startups like yourself, Peter, I think will do it very well, but not those street vendor and the farmers really on the ground, right? So that's number one, I think data, because that is something that they will not be able to do it on their own. The second part, I think the solution, I think is entrepreneurship, right? Which is really the theme here, right? I think this is where I think we will need to get a lot of the people who are the more educated, the more experienced, right, in Indonesia, to actually step up, right? Because I think the gap for the farmers and the street vendor to be able to really build their own AI system is really still far. But if a lot of the entrepreneur like being cultivated here can step up, right? And I think that will really, bring the AI to the mass market, right? And think of it, when you think of startup, you do not think of the old days again, right? Hundreds of millions of venture capitalist funding has to flow in, a lot of engineers and so on. No, not anymore. Like what Amit say, right? It's a one-man entrepreneur, right? I believe a lot of graduates here will probably be able to, create not just one, maybe multiple actually startup, multiple entrepreneurship that actually help a lot of these guys on the ground, right? Maybe help the farmer, for example, predict weather, help the farmer predict which seed to use for this season and so on, right? And I think that will change a lot.
Which I think underlines what Peter said, and that's maybe something that doesn't get talked about enough, is that apparently AI not only I think a lot of people feel threatened by AI, like it's threatening our humanity. But actually, it feels like it's actually taking away some of the stuff, the more technical stuff, and it elevates our capacity for observation, for seeing the gap in the market. And that's actually the more human part that needs to be built on. So I think that's a line worth repeating everywhere so that we can we build up humanity with AI rather than relegating us to the more menial task and then without intending to only allowing access to technology to the people who are able to communicate with it by coding, right? So, okay, so that's the inclusion is one side of it. The next part I want to talk about, because Happy Digital X is also about sustainability. Of course, the compute and the resources needed to make this vision a reality, that's another consideration. So where do you see where we are right now, and what does it take to the three of you? What does it take for us to be able to safeguard, the ecological respect and integrity that we can have this technology mindfully? Anyone?
Please, no. Go.
Sure. I mean, I can start that off. I mean, I think, yeah, as I said in the introduction, one of the things that has driven me, continuously is just the incredible amount of underutilized, resources, and just in terms of the energy and the compute. And if we were just leveraging that better, I think a lot of the sustainability, issues would be resolved. And there's actually a lot of the day-to-day work that we use AI models to do. We don't actually need the really powerful frontier models that are running, in data centers. Those are still, vitally important for a lot of the cutting edge, work. But for just a lot of the day-to-day inferencing and running agents and things, these can now be accomplished very competently by relatively non-resource intensive, LLMs that can run on, local computers. And so, part of that is, so, I mean, there's a training gap, too. The technology is there, but, there are people who have just never had the experience of even trying to work with an AI, conversationally, even though this has been, just a very, very common, feature of their existence for a while. And kind of the same with running AIs locally and finding out ways to, get just kind of leverage distributed resources better. I think one of the big challenges that's going to be harder to deal with is the e-waste that is coming our way. This is something that so far we don't really have a collective solution for, the kind of mass recycling of very rapidly appreciating GPUs. That's again another reason why we should try to push more of our use of AI onto infrastructure that we already have, that already works and works well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted, I think Peter's touched on the impact of AI on energy consumption and what it means from a sustainability standpoint. And I think there's a lot of effort being put into that to work through that, but I think Peter's already covered that. I'll touch on the other piece, which is how can AI now, sorry, that's my phone ringing. How can AI now ensure that we can progress the use of technology in better sustainability, being more sustainable at an enterprise level, whether it's around energy management, whether it's around waste management, water management. There are so many aspects. It could be around other climate, sort of climate initiatives. Till now, there's been a lot of use of data and outputs that come out of that to better manage that. And again, as I said, with AI, I think the ability to move from that passive reporting to actually actioning with AI, I think is going to be the big fundamental shift. And it's simple things like, you could be automating your homes, you could be automating a number of, the way you manage your mobility and things. I think a lot of that will come into play. I mean, we actually do an annual report for Microsoft. Sorry, Donald. It's a global report on use of technology for sustainability. And when I look at that, and we've been doing it for 4 years, and when I look at that research, it's like what it was saying 2 years ago and what the possibilities will be 2 years later are going to be completely unrecognizable.
Okay, so there's efficiency gains and then closing the mismatch gap between resource and the need. And then, of course, to the hyperscaler side, which everyone's scared about, like the data centers eating up their water and so on. What's your take, Pa Donald?
Right. This is exactly, I think, where cloud providers like Amazon actually help at the bottom of it, at the infrastructure layer. There's a couple of things that we're doing, right? The number one is how we use renewable energy, right? So that's our commitment, right? So in Indonesia itself, right? Amazon data centers is already 100% using renewable energy as of last year, right? So that actually helps, right? That takes away, the questions around the power utilization and so on, right? So I think that's number one. Number two, I think let's recognize the fact those AI chips, right? It's power hungry, right? So the fact that when you start using cloud, what it means is when you are not using it, you are releasing it for somebody else to use it. So you don't actually keep a server running in your data center, burning electricity for nothing, because you can't just keep on powering off those servers, right? So technically, by using cloud, you are actually contributing to the effort of conservation as well, right? Because what you do not use, somebody else can use instead of us spinning off another server. So I think that's two things I think can really help a lot at the infrastructure layer.
All right, very cool. We have about 9 minutes left to the conversation. I want to loop it back to the SMEs. I think we have a few entrepreneurs here in the room. Paint us a picture. I think, Peter, you mentioned a little bit about a very different future. So paint us a picture of the future where AI, AI first world of entrepreneur. And how does an entrepreneur situate herself or himself to be able to end up on the right side of that story, the one that's successful and thriving versus getting displaced. Maybe we'll change it up. Have Donald start first.
Yeah. I think this is a very interesting question. So when I think of in a world where everything is AI first, what will happen to the entrepreneur, right? I think really they will be the creativity, right? They will be the creativity engine where a lot of actually the day-to-day kind of heavy lifting is done by the agentic system, all based on AI, right? So we talk a lot about collaboration and so on. I imagine, places like Bali will be where a lot of the startup founders, the entrepreneurs actually meet to actually exchange ideas, not to do real work, right? But to exchange ideas, figuring out collaboration, figuring out the next business idea, right? How they launch something together, and then the actual heavy lifting of getting the company off the ground will probably outsource to a bunch of machines.
Very cool.
Yeah, I guess to elaborate a little bit more on what I said.
I think you need your microphone so that the people.
Sorry. Yes, absolutely, I do. Yeah. So to elaborate on something I said, alluded to a little earlier about, it really starts to then go back to fundamentals. So many, because one of the bottlenecks actually used to be creating the actual product. You'd have to, you need some seed investment, or you need some seed capital, or you need, some time and some talent, to grind out even just a demo. Now that thing can just be done, in an hour or so with a snap of the fingers using like a multi-agent coordination architecture. And so, like I said, that part is kind of solved. And so now it goes back more to fundamentals, finding out what the actual human need is, the problem, the pain point that needs to be solved, discovering, who that customer is, those absolute fundamentals of achieving product market fit. These are the sorts of things that startups have always struggled with and probably will always continue to struggle with. But those are areas where AI can facilitate a lot and can help us out a lot. Internally, actually, we've got a kind of a process that we developed to analyze our conversations that we're having with customers. We call it subtext. We might spin it off as a separate product, but it basically analyzes transcripts. It looks at some of the themes that people are trying to articulate, but they're possibly not even aware of, across different conversations. So, there's a place for working in AI and AI-driven workflows into those traditional fundamentals of entrepreneurship, but really what has to lead the charge has got to be the human element there.
Right.
Still.
And the fishers and the farmers and the street vendors are definitely a good place to start to bring the inclusion level in, as we
That's right.
stated earlier.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. I mean,
I'm going to build on a couple of things that Peter and Donald said because they were both very relevant. So I want to make sure I do justice to that. But I want to first just emphasize, when we think about AI and the AI future in the enterprise or entrepreneurship, we're not talking about everyone being an AI native founder. Because I think if everyone is building AI companies, then I think we'll have a problem too, because someone needs to grow the fruit as well, right? So I think I break it into three parts. So I just to give, and I'm just sharing this for more context around my thinking. One is, of course, the entrepreneurs that are going to build AI companies, which means they're actually building the technology. They're actually building the consumption part of AI, where others are consuming it. The second are enterprises or companies where AI is actually used and enterprise-wide to actually achieve the best business outcomes. So one is an AI native company, the other is maybe AI forward, AI first, maybe AI forward. So I think there's those two categories. So when I look at that, I think, let's look at the first set of entrepreneurs that we are seeing. I mean, Donald talked about the lawyer. I think that's a great example, because that entrepreneur who's building those AI companies is someone who brings in the business domain expertise and the ability to put structure and research behind everything that the process they're developing. So it's about the domain expertise and the workflows, not the tech anymore, because I think that is the piece that's the most disrupted today. The second set of entrepreneurs are the OMEs. Now, I'm going to coin that term, so anyone who uses it, please, it's trademarked now. And we've got everyone here as written. No, I'm just kidding. But the one-man enterprise, I think, is a true reality. And doesn't mean that everyone, let's not confuse that with one-man unicorns, because that's aspirational. This is reality, one-man enterprise, right? So how can AI help one person build business very efficiently? So that's one category of entrepreneurs. And again, great example to have that in a place like Bali, for example. The third example is the entrepreneurs that are taking their expertise and building beyond that and bringing truly the power of technology. So let me give you an example. A very dear friend who's an entrepreneur, but also a very well-known Bollywood film star and producer as well. And most people, at least most girls, look at him and they kind of look at him as the model actor, but he is an entrepreneur. He has recognized that one of the problems in the industry, in the entertainment industry, is the ability to create, creative speech and music. And once he started to experiment there, he realized that using existing LLMs was not the solution. So guess what? He went out and built an LLM, right? So I think there is that ability now to bring those real AI native companies, and an AI native founder doesn't actually have to be a technology person at all. So I think the future of entrepreneurship, and I'm hoping that as these entrepreneurs build, they will keep in mind that purpose and profit are not exclusive. They go together. And if you focus on both, I think that's a good place to be.
Very cool. Purpose and profit. Yeah. So that's a helpful distinction on where one can start to develop in an AI forward or AI first movement or orientation. So there was an interesting conversation during lunch today around the non-aligned movement for AI. Somebody in the room could probably speak to that. Was it Sherry or was it you?
Yeah, I could talk about it. But everyone. Yes. Yes.
Maybe pitch it first, and we'll hear what the audience.
Maybe I'll set some context on how that conversation came about. So I think there were different threads that got us to that point. One thread was that, so it started with how Bali is the one place where people come in, and it's it represents peace, not just externally, but I think the more comfortable we are with ourselves, the more effective we are in our thinking, the more I guess considerate we are as human beings. So I think Bali brings that element, and it also creates that neutral. So Indonesia creates a neutral environment, and the opportunity today, if you really look at the AI is really in the US and China. I mean, that's where the powerhouses are. The third player, of course, in this mix is India, which has a lot of talent. So undoubtedly will pick up, even if not developing the core AI technology, actually applying it to build scale, right? So the opportunity is these three may not necessarily be in sync elsewhere, but I think Indonesia can actually bring that ability for all three to co-create here. Because if you look at Indonesia, you have all three of those enterprises. You have Amazon, you have the Alibabas, you have Huawei, you have the Indian companies, Infosys, TCS, all are here. So, and Indonesia has, I mean, I must say the opening, every time I come to Bali, especially, and I listen to the opening, and the welcome remarks always include such an inclusive element in every, the welcome is in every culture and language. So I really appreciate that. So I think Indonesia has that edge. And then we discussed that, can we bring that, can that become, and then I think the Council General mentioned that the non-aligned movement was started in Indonesia. Obviously, it was started, Indonesia was a big part, and it was today, April 18th. So we said, why don't we mark today as the day to kick off the digital non-aligned movement so that we make it inclusive.
That's super cool. Anyone feel interested, intrigued, challenged, or want to give ideas or support from the audience? Anything that's resonating? Yes, no, yes.
Oh, sure.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, if you're asking what's resonating, it's definitely Indonesia has, I've always thought that, and one of the things that's always attracted me about Indonesia is the unity and diversity, because we're at the Unity and Diversity campus, right? And I loved what you were saying, Mr. Amit Gupta, around how this is a playground for that unity and diversity in terms of AI as well. And where all these big players can kind of battle in like equal rights, to say so, and interesting things will come out of it. And I think I run an innovation hub, startup hub, co-working here in Sanur, and we work with interesting technologies, and AI is obviously a big one of them right now. And we're really excited to see what to be part of this and see where this is going and how we can all help shape it. Thank you for the great event.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm Lavinia from Livit. So we are in Sanur, not far away from you, and we've actually been working with the team here for a while, collaborating on events. So we're excited about more things happening on this side of the island, right?
Thank you. Thank you. All right. And anyone from this side? Okay.
Hello, I'm Zulham. I'm under director of Sinar Teknologi Indonesia, one of software house company in Bali. And currently, I have agentic system AI for my company. And as we know, that AI model, the company have their own powerful model, right? And since we don't have an open source powerful model like Cloud, that's uh, okay. Sorry. The fact that there's a few open source model as powerful as Cloud, that's a problem right now. And the fact that the GPU hardware, like NVIDIA, so the model will be compatible with NVIDIA, right? I think that's make us to get a few options to run a model. Since in current geopolitics right now, the currency is too far away, right? That's all.
Yeah, and maybe that's something a movement, a non-aligned movement can help address.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I was at the AI ethics, United Nations AI ethics forum in Bangkok last year. It was the first time it was held in Asia, actually, and it was fascinating. There was for a number of reasons, partly in terms of who wasn't there. There was really no, I mean, this is a big United Nations, event, and they're talking about, AI ethics, which is one of the most foundationally important, issues concerning AI. Although I did have someone tell me the other day that nobody cares about AI ethics and sustainability. Anyway, yeah, I was disappointed. But anyway, yeah, there was no significant representation at this event from the PRC or from the United States or from any of the big AI labs at all. And so, one of the things when I'm facilitating classes, in AI ethics, and we're talking about things like, autonomy and so forth, one of the things I always tell my students is, your autonomy is yours to lose. And if you want it, you've got to take it. And it's in your control, to do that. So anyway, yeah, I agree with you.
And maybe Pak Donald has something to add to that.
Okay, let me add on a little bit, right? So I think you mentioned a few problems. Number one, GPU. That's not easy to find. It's not cheap as well, right? And the second one, I think the cost of the model, right? We know Cloud is very powerful, and yet it's actually quite costly as well, right? So I think this is interestingly where, in a country like Indonesia, where we are not having to have to align ourselves in this very confusing geopolitical situation, you actually have choices, right? So, for example, AWS in Indonesia, we bring in model both from the West as well as the East, and you can actually deploy your own model. And the fact some of this thing is actually available to you as an API. So you just call it one at a time. You don't have to worry about where do I find my GPU, how do I run my GPU and all that. And I think this is really what is key for a lot of the software houses that just get started, right? And I think interestingly, if you actually follow closely enough in technical speak, in developer speak, there are now models like Kimi 2.5, which is getting closer and closer to Cloud, right? It may not be matching up yet, but it's actually close enough, right? And those are available in countries like Indonesia, not in every country because Kimi comes from China, right? It's considered the East model, but in country like Indonesia, we can bring that in. Hopefully that helps.
Options.
Yeah. Just to build on that, I think Peter was talking about distributed infrastructure earlier. If you really think about it, I think where the opportunity is for Indonesia is to build for Indonesia and solving Indonesia's own local challenges and around what people need here. But at the same time, I think there's also an opportunity to build for the region, Southeast Asia. So I think there's also perhaps an opportunity, and I don't think we have the time to discuss that in detail right now, but just a thought to leave you all with. We have the access to a distributed infrastructure across like Batam, Singapore, Johor. So Singapore, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia how can you tap into that? How can there be, because you can have in that distributed environment, you could have the training of the models in one place. You can actually have the inferencing and where you need to keep it very close and contained, where the data has to be more sovereign. So,
And where the data does have to be separate, then we've got federated learning now.
that's right.
Okay, so the tools are available, the models are available, the distributed hardware and infrastructure is available, but we need to get together, and maybe that's where the movement can really come into contribution. We have time for maybe one more comment. Ibu Laksmi, I think that actually we have two. Can we do two or? We take one, okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ibu Sobi. Thank you, Mr. Hamid, Mr. Peter, and Mr. Tirta. I'm Laksmi Saraswati as the head of the Social Affairs Government of Denpasar City. Yeah, I listens about the powerful of AI. And now the government of Denpasar is focused how to be a good data for the people is coming to Bali. That you say that this is Bali is the focus and Denpasar is the capital city of Bali. There are many people come around to stay in Denpasar. How to be the AI become a greener economy? Because you are said about the entrepreneurships. We focus about disability. We have the schizophrenia about the mental health to become to be around to the village, the home, because you know this is situation. Not people in happy, but it's always stress and get up mental. But they have to be right to stay and to back home. So that is why we build three building for disability to be an entrepreneur. So how to be the AI for disability, for academic, and be greener for their life. Thank you.
So it's a question of how do we bring AI?
Because we learn and teach them for more and more. We establish 3 buildings for them and the people in poverty situations. You know, the situation of the Bali now about the flood is a disasters. How we learn much about this is a talk about the inside of a side of the government because the social affairs is handling about the after the mitigations. Yeah, so that is why how to be the strangest about the AI for a greener economy for the consumption, because there are many people come and stay in Bali, do not report. So the AI is that strangings about the data. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Laksmi. Any thoughts?
I can give it a go. I think there's if I understand, I think there's 2 questions there. One is how do you use AI for the green economy in Bali? And the second was really around disability and the people that are here. How do you help with that? So maybe I'll start with the second one first, because I think the digital economy, and we were talking about that at lunch as well. There's obviously many perspectives to how the world has changed around us. And I always remind, I was at a breakfast a couple of days ago, and I was talking to a group of people, and I was saying, when I was growing up, we took knowledge and we took pride when your parents bought you like the Britannica Encyclopedia, and you read those books, right? Then I became part of the internet economy. And so, most of us have seen that transition. Now we're in AI. I think the whole digital economy has impacted the ability for people to connect socially, and obviously has created more awareness around mental health as well. But I think one of the areas that AI can certainly help is, if done properly, is to help with mental health issues, and to actually help people have the right level of support and interactions, because not everyone has access to friends and family and support structure. And I think AI can help with that. But obviously, it's a very dangerous thing unless done properly. I think on the green economy piece, if I understood your question right, I think it's really about how do you use AI to not just help make decisions, but actually action the decisions that will create, more sort of control, checks and balances on consumption of water. How do you manage waste, energy, all of those things? So.
There's one more here. Yes. Okay. There's one more over there as well, actually. But we have to, if somebody says time's up.
Yes, it's a great. Hello. Yeah, thanks for taking my question. My name is Nicholas Lenoche. I'm a co-founder of a brand new crypto exchange, and we're focusing on India and Indonesia as our flagship markets. And one of the things that really struck me in the talk here is, number one, AI is key, right? And so in building a crypto exchange, we can't build a crypto exchange with AI. You know, you don't really need to go old school looking at the code of how to build an engine that is reliable, enterprise, etc. But when we're talking about the issue of financial inclusion, I think this is where what we've built our exchange to be targeted towards beginning traders, intermediate traders, where I think the AI is really a key to unlock the power of the internet, of the technology that we built, and allow users to intuitively use the technology for their own benefit. So I really would like your feedback on, as far as financial inclusion and, you know, launching a crypto exchange and a financial platform in Indonesia. What are the kind of steps that we can take to really drive the innovation of AI intuitiveness to the customer?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I think the challenge is, I'm speaking for all of us. I'm not sure if any of us are experts in blockchain and crypto, but at least I'm not. Oh, well, then Peter should answer that one. I think just financial inclusion outside of crypto, I think AI can play a massive role in onboarding, the customer experience, the way people interface, making it more accessible to people. So I think there's many applications there. But from a crypto standpoint, I think I'll have to defer to Peter.
Well, I've got some experience here. I'm not sure we can give an answer that's definitive. But you know, on the crypto side of things, honestly, I think this is moving much more in the direction of something that is going to be mediated almost entirely by AI agents. This is not going to be, if I was launching a new crypto exchange, make it agent first. Don't make it human first. Forget about human traders. Or if there's a human trader, they're going to be trading through an AI agent. So, you know, but one place where I think crypto has some potential there is just the liquidity and the ease with which one can transact. Across borders, and in terms of financial inclusion for people who may be unbanked. There's a lot of work that needs and that stuff is actually easy. You've been able to do that, you know, from the beginning. But then the challenge is getting those people on board and making those capabilities actually, you know, work for them. And that goes beyond just the machinery of the exchange, you know, which is vital, but that's where the rubber meets the road. That's the job for all the entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, maybe adding on a little bit to Peter. Right, so just last month in AWS we have a ASEAN Leadership Forum, right? And we think a lot about how do we use AI, right? So I think the question was, when you ask the question, how can AI help with the financial inclusion? I don't think there's a clear answer, right? But if you think the other way around, right? You as a financial service provider, how do you actually help educate the mass market, right? How you actually help people to be included financially, be it crypto or anything else. The question, you change it into how you build an AI system to actually replicate yourself and help yourself educate people, right? So instead of probably you talking to like 100 people, 200 people, right? Suddenly you have an AI system that can help you answer the questions, right? So hopefully that may be one way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. I'm thinking back now to Arthur Hayes. I'm sure you know Arthur Hayes, right? Founder of BitMEX. And you know, when he started out, you can go back and find some of these old YouTube videos. You know, he was reaching out to people. He was holding, little conversational forums in the basements of community centers, in Hong Kong, talking to like 5 people with his, slide presentation. And that's what it took, to get people, interested in what was then, a completely, alien, form of technology. And that is precisely the kind of outreach and communication and perhaps, education that can be done now, with AI avatars and things like that can now be, very rapidly deployed, very highly attuned to whoever your target market segment is and the message and so forth. Yeah.
Can I just have one part? Sorry. Now, as I think more about the financial inclusion element, right? And sorry, Nicholas, going sort of beyond your question. I think there was talk today at lunch as well about having a unified ID system in Indonesia as well. I think it really comes. So first of all, to have financial inclusion, I think AI can be the accelerant, but I think you need to have that digital public infrastructure that will enable that. And I think there are markets where that has worked very well. I was reading a stat yesterday. I think in Singapore, digital payments now are like it's 94%. Through the various formats, but it comes down to the actual digital public infrastructure and the digital rails you put. But I think where AI will help is through the education piece, the risk assessment, because obviously as you start to go into rural parts, you'll have customers who won't really have the requisite KYC pieces, but how do you use AI to enable that so that they can be onboarded as well without actually having those very rigid formats?
All right, thank you. So maybe just one sentence, closing remarks from each of you. One sentence on AI and entrepreneur. What's the parting thought that you want to leave us with?
Well, I'm just going to say it in one word. I'm putting the plug in for DNAM, Digital Non-Aligned Movement.
All right. Thank you, Amit. Peter?
Yeah, digital non-aligned movement. Let's stay with that theme. Let's make it happen. April 18th, there it is. I didn't see any dissenting votes, so let's make it happen. Yeah.
Out of Bali. Awesome. Donald.
I think this is a really exciting time, right? So digital non-alignment and all that thing. And I think if there's one word, I'll say, just jump in. This is the time. Right?
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much to our panelists and to our audience for engaging and staying with it. I believe we have tokens of appreciation. I leave it back to my colleague, Dian.
Yeah, please remain on stage because we will give you a token of appreciation, and I will have to invite Ibu Sherin Rusalim to give the token to our panelists. Thank you so much, and please give a big round of applause for our panelists and moderator. Thank you, Peter. We are also inspired by the conversation today.
Yes.
Thanks so much. Before we move into the second part of our afternoon, we have a special guest joining us online, and she will give her reflection and also remarks on how this AI is sitting on in the realm of national development planning. We have with us Dr. Vivi Yulaswati, Deputy of Economic Affairs and Digital Transformation, Ministry of National Development Planning or Bappenas. Ibu Vivi?
Yeah. Thank you. Selamat sore, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Rahayu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, and very good afternoon. Distinguished guests, I heard that Bu Cherry Nur Salim is there, Professor Liu Bibo, the Director for the Tsinghua Southeast Asia, other speakers. I heard some of the panel is really interesting, and all of the respected audience. Let me share some slides to give some updates on the artificial intelligence trends in Indonesia. Next slide, please. Oh yeah, first of all, for sure, I need to apologize for not being there in person as I have already other commitments today in Jakarta. So I also want to congratulate and appreciate for this important event. The title is really powerful, the power of AI. So it is super important for Indonesia as well. So distinguished guests, in this slide, you may learn that we have the Indonesia's long-term development strategy for 2025-2045 that identifies the digital transformation as a core enabler for both economic and also governance transformations. So achieving this for sure requires critical steps. First, building an integrated digital ecosystem, accelerating cross-sector transformations, and developing a future-ready digital talents. These are supported, of course, by critical foundations like technology investment, digital infrastructure, and research and innovations, which all determine how fast or how far we can scale the emerging technologies like AI. And in our midterm development plan, 2025-2029, on the right-hand side, it's explaining about that this transformation is done through three pillars: the digital economy and the society, digital infrastructure, and the digital government, together forming a coherent approach to integrate digitalizations into the national development priorities. So some targets that's including for the particularly on the digital transformations include like of course the digital contribution to GDP, and then the global digital competitiveness index. We want to have like around 40th rank, the infrastructure stock to GDP ratio, the National Digital Transformation Index, the Electronic-Based Government System Index, which now transforming into the digital government, and one more is on the One Data Indonesia Index. Next slide, please. So AI is expected to maximize the priority development sectors to support the 8% of economic growth that have been targeted by the president by 2029. So by embedding the development of an integrated digital ecosystem, accelerations of digital transformations, and the digital talent productions or maybe acquisition, I would say, Indonesia positioned itself to leverage AI and advanced technology not just as a tool, but embedded at the core of development and, of course, its executions. Some of the priority sectors, including like manufacture, tourism, creative economy, education, health, agriculture, logistics, and the digital government. So within this context, technology adoptions and innovations, I think it's really indispensable. Digital technologies, AI, and data-driven tools are, of course, pivotal for operational efficiency, sustainable resource management, and productivity enhancement across the industries. Next slide, please. So here are some utilizations of AI across sectors. It's really preliminary stages. Some strategies to keep moving forward include develop research ecosystem and AI innovations platform. We are now preparing for the presidential decree on AI. Two presidential decree that we are preparing now. I think Bu Mutia, the Minister for ComDG maybe also mention about this because we are working together. One on the presidential decree for AI and on the ethics. And other also grow and nurture competitive AI talent and enhance the data infrastructure. When we're talking about the ethical AI, it's supposed to be aligned with our Pancasila values. Pancasila is the state foundations or a state philosophy. Next slide, please. In this slide, this is just a brief descriptions about the landscape of Indonesian digital economy values. On some factors, you could see that there are quite a potential to increase the trend for particularly on digital payment, on the e-commerce between 2025 to 2030. We also have some increase on the digital health service, some transportation, logistic, and also the tourism. Next slide. Regulation, I already mentioned that the National AI White Paper Roadmap is currently on the process of being elevated into president regulations. But still, we also have we facing some civil society concern, like in algorithm bias, security, transparency, and of course the data privacy for AI. Other tensions is that many ministries, agencies, local governments develop their own digital system that make the work still in silos. So the solution is to develop an integrated data system, the one data policy that I mentioned. And now we are also working with the parliament to process it to enhance by law for one data policy. Next slide, please. This is about the Southeast Asia landscape, which also faces structural constraint. So we could see here that Singapore leads with the 61 governance initiatives, fostering an AI-friendly environment, while most the Southeast Asia countries face low AI investment, or also the underdeveloped digital ecosystem and skill gaps, and of course, this including Indonesia. So the government actions alone, I'm sure, is insufficient. Strong partnership with the academia, industry, and development partners are essential to increase the AI literacy, workforce capacity, and in ecosystem integrations to translate the technological potential into tangible productivities gain for sure. Next slide. So in this slide shows that Indonesia digital economy approach around $100 billion mark in 2025 with a 14% year-on-year growth in the GMV, the growth merchandise value. So these numbers is outpacing regional peers such as Singapore. So projections indicate a minimum of $180 billion by 2030. It's reflecting robust expansions across e-commerce, media, travel, and transport sectors that I mentioned earlier. So AI is poised to be a key growth driver, contributing, this is about $366 billion to GDP by 2030, enhancing productions, operational efficiency, and of course, enterprise competitiveness. Slide 9, please. So Indonesia really holds, next slide, please. So Indonesia, I think, is really holds a unique advantage Indonesia has emerged as a regional leader in AI adoptions and commercial momentum. I think this represented by around 80% of the users interact with the AI tools daily. This is the number shows that this is the second highest in Southeast Asia. And AI-driven applications revenue grew around 127% from 2024 to 2025. The workforce adoption is also rising, with 1 out of 4 jobs projected to be augmented by Gen AI, and 21% of the employees using AI daily. Industry engagement is now growing with around more than 45 active AI startups and more than 500 million invested since 2020. I think this is mainly on the data centers, and I heard that we are talking about the green AI. I think it's related to the data center in which the source of the electricity is supposed to be on the green energy. So with a large engaged user base on growing enterprise adoptions, Indonesia is positioned to harness AI for productivity, innovations, and of course, regional influence. Next slide, please. So we could see here that Indonesia's AI ecosystem has evolved. The role of Indonesia in Asia is driven by exceptional user readiness, with 80% of the users I mentioned already in Indonesia interact with AI-powered tools on daily basis. And I think when we are get up in the early morning, the first thing that almost everybody do is take the cell phone. So this kind of strong enthusiasm is also reflected in the market, where revenue from AI-driven applications surged more than 100%. Yeah. So number of AI talent is increasing. Now it's approaching to 100,000 in 2025, and it follows by the increase of the AI startups. 10 universities now offer dedicated AI programs, and the AI publications now reach to 982 indexes in Scopus. So this signals a critical shift from early adoptions toward ecosystem maturity. Indonesia AI ecosystem, of course, is not only expanding in scale, but it also providing a ground. I think it's like the fertile ground, I would say, for innovation-driven growth, enterprise transformations, and investor confidence. Next slide, please. So this is the last slide. I think globally, AI investment has surged, and while we now see a phase of greater selectivity and rationalizations, this reflects a maturing market focusing on sustainable values. Indonesia's mirrors this trends. Total AI startup, I think, it's increasing, growing around 141% over 5 years. I think this make attracting global technology companies to build AI infrastructure. So therefore, Indonesia offers an opportunity for AI investment, combining market readiness and, of course, talent growth and infrastructure support. There are many other things that we are working now, particularly in relate to the digital government, in which we want to inject the AI, for example, in the school lunch program, to avoid some failures of the delivery. And also, we inject the AI on the one data policy to improve the analytical exercise. So in the future, I think collaborative engagement with the investors, innovators, academia will accelerate the nation's AI-driven economic transformation. and later on make it a pivotal hub for Southeast Asia or for the AI. So I think that brings me to end of my remarks. Thank you very much for your attention. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi 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 Om.
Thank you, Ibu Fifi, for your special remarks. So now we're gonna take a break, a long-awaited break. So we're gonna take a break for 5 minutes, stretch your leg, and then if you want, you can take your coffee and then bring it back to this room because we will continue with the conferment of the certificate of SDX graduates. See you in 5 minutes.